everybody, I'm Mary and I'm from Greece, and today I'm gonna show you a beautiful rib. It's a very easy pattern, a beginner pattern, and all we need to do is knit 3 stitches and slip 1 purlwise with the yarn to the front. Well, let's see it. In order to do this pattern, we need to cast on a multiple of 4 stitches plus 3. Let's make a sample of let's say 15 stitches. So we need to make our slip knot. This counts as our first stitch, and then we cast on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 stitches. Well, this is our first row, and we begin by knitting 3 stitches and slipping 1 purlwise without knitting it. Let's knit the stitches. So knit the first, the second and the third one. Let's move, and then bring the yarn to the front like as if to purl, and then take this stitch as if to purl, but we are not going to knit it. We just slip it over from the left needle to the right needle and bring the working yarn to the back, so it wraps a little bit. You see, this is the slip stitch. Now we're going to bring our yarn to the back, and it has wrapped the stitch, and we are ready now to knit 3 again. This is going to do it till the end. 1, 2 and 3. Let's bring the yarn to the front and slip the stitch off our needle. Just slip without knitting it. Bring the yarn to the back and be ready to knit 1, 2, 3 stitches. So we are left with 4 stitches, and this is the end of our first row, and we're going to bring the yarn to the front, slip the first stitch and knit the 3 stitches. So we end this row as we started it, by knitting 3. This is our second row, and this is very similar to the first row. We just begin and end in a different way. In our first row we began by knitting 3, and we end up with by knitting 3. Now we're going to knit 1, slip 1, knit purlwise, knit 1 stitch, then bring the yarn, the working yarn, to the front, slip the stitch purlwise, bring the yarn to the back as if to knit, and knit 3 stitches, 1, 2 and 3. Bring the yarn to the front, slip the stitch purlwise, bring the yarn to the back so it wraps the stitch a little bit, and knit 1, 2, 3. We're going to make this till the last 2 stitches. Bring the yarn to the front, slip 1, the yarn goes to the back, and 1, 2, we always knit 3, and in this row we end up with 2 stitches. So we bring the yarn to the front, knit, slip this stitch without knitting it, bring the yarn to the back and knit the last stitch. So in this row we began by a twin, knit 1, slip 1, like as if to purl, and we end up with the opposite thing. Slip this one, not the last one, the one next to the last, slip it purlwise and knit the last stitch. So we're going to repeat these 2 rows, and we see now clearly that we are in our first row, because we have this knit stitch before us. It's the second stitch, and we're now going to create a long knitted stitch with this V shape, and the 2 stitches right next to this stitch, we're going to knit them. So we are in the beginning of row 1 and we're going to knit 3. We're going to learn this pattern after a while, after 3 or 4 rows. Slip 1, the yarn moves to the back, knit 3, 1, 2, 3, always knit 3 and slip the next stitch, knit 1, 2, 3 and slip this stitch. And we know we are always right when we have 3 stitches left. The middle one is a knit stitch with a V, and we have to knit these 3 stitches. If we end up with 3 knitted stitches, then to the next row, in the beginning, think about it like this. We're going to knit 1, slip 1 purlwise, and after this we repeat knit 3, 1, 2, 3, slip 1, the yarn goes back, 1, 2, 3, the yarn goes into the front, back again, 1, 2, 3, and we end with 2 stitches left in this second row. The yarn goes to the front and we slip 1 stitch, the yarn goes to the back and we knit the last stitch. This is a 2-row pattern that these 2 rows are very similar. After a while we are going to see this long knitted stitch that it's going to create a beautiful shape. Let's see it here. I'm knitting this, I'm sorry, to find my needles. So I'm knitting this shrug. It's a long straight item that I'm going to fold. I'm gonna give you the measurement. I'm going to fold it in the half and sew this part, leaving open this for a sleeve. And it's a very easy way to make a cardigan, a shrug. Well, here we can see very clearly these V shapes of the knitted stitches, and the pattern repeat is very clear to our eye, and we can understand where we are if now I see in front of me this knit stitch. I know that 1 stitch before and 1 stitch after this stitch I'm gonna knit. This is the triple that I will knit. Next to it, before and after, I have to slip the stitches, one stitch here and one stitch here, purlwise, without knitting them. This slip thing creates the knitted stitch in the opposite side. So I have 4 stitches here. The 3 I'm going to knit, this one I'm going to slip it. So I bring my yarn to the front, I slip this, and I'm going to knit 3. I always know to knit 3 when I see the middle stitch which is knitted. So this is the way to understand the pattern, and knit, 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 and then if someone talks to you, then you stop and say, oh, what I'm going to do now? Well, what you're going to do, you have stopped, and then right there in front of you, you can see the knitted stitch that creates this V shape. So I know it's the middle stitch of the 3 that I'm knitting. So I'm going to knit this and knit the next one, and then I have to slip this. And after this is a triple that I'm going to knit. So slip the stitch, and 1, 2, 3 I'm knitting. Bring the yarn to the front, I'm slipping the stitch, and I'm knitting these 3 stitches. And of course you have to easily find out what to do in the beginning of the row. Let's see here. Let's say I don't know my pattern, I don't remember what to do. Now the very easy way to understand what to do is this knitting stitch that I see. It's the second stitch in this row. So I'm going to start with knit 3, slip 1, knit 3. So I keep this pattern right. If I was to the other side and I was going to begin my row, I can clearly see here the knitted stitch. You see? It's right here, the first row of the knitted stitches. Now, if I count from the edge, from the beginning of my row, this is the 4th stitch here. So I know that next to this knit stitch, the previous stitch and the stitch after, I'm going to knit them, these 3 stitches. So I know that I will begin this row by knitting 1, slip 1 with the yarn in front as if to purl, and then knit 3, slip 1, knit 3, slip 1. This is the way to understand your pattern and make it your own creation, and not be afraid to knit. I hope you like this pattern, and it creates with a very good yarn. Here I'm knitting with a Merino's yarn, and creates a very chunky knit, and it's very soft, and you love to wear it. Thank you very much from sunny Greece. I wish you have a pleasant time. Bye.